Who's ready for a new year? Are you so ready? I am so ready. Wait, can we try that again? We just did a sound check for about an hour. You witnessed most of it. So now we're warmed up. Are you ready for a new year? Oh my God. Whew. I am so ready for a new year. I always love this moment with you in the room specifically. You're here, we're here, and that's all we know. We say tomorrow, we'll say it a number of times, again and again, as we blow the shofar throughout Musaf, we'll say, Hayom Harat Olam, which technically means today the universe is being gestated. Today the universe is in God's womb, in formation. Whatever is going to happen hasn't happened yet, is still malleable, is still moldable. We stand on the cusp right now, which for those of us who are really looking for change and shift in the new year is probably reassuring and wonderful that we don't know what's coming. And it's also a little terrifying because we don't know what's coming. Tonight, some of us show up here having had banner years. There are people in this room who got engaged, who got married, who got pregnant. There are people who bought your first condo, who got your first job. Oh, what? Is the issue my earrings? Let's just do this now. Okay. Wait. Sorry, everybody. This is just to relieve you of any illusion you might have had that this is a professionally run operation on my part. On my part. Everyone around me is a professional, but what was I thinking? Okay. and now this. Okay. Rabbi Lauren's just going to be like Jiminy Cricket over here for me, telling me every time there's something I need to fix. Okay. And now I feel like we've been through something together, like the ice is broken. Okay. There are those among us tonight who finally got out of relationships that were holding us back, that were beginning to corrode our very souls. And you're beginning to find your way back to yourself and your own goals. And there's some of us this year for whom all of that's true, and yet we're still lonely. For some of us, it's a miracle we're here tonight. Actually, for all of us, it's a miracle we're here tonight. But for many, this has been a rough year. We have lost people close to us. We have held the hands of people who have received painful diagnoses. We have ourselves received hard news. We had relapses. We struggled financially. It took everything we could muster to be here tonight and to be here tomorrow morning. And we come just hoping so much that this year our heart will be open to love and our eyes will be open to seeing the world differently, maybe this year, and that maybe change is in fact possible. This has been a hard year for the Jews, for our people. For this year, we had martyrs among our people in America in 2019. People who did not wake up in the morning thinking that that was going to be how they ended their lives. And they did not wake up in the morning thinking that going to synagogue, they were standing for something. And yet, they died standing for something. We will say their names at Kaddish tonight. We've always known being Jewish is being different. And I think we are all coming to realize now in a very stark way that to be a Jew, and especially to be a practicing Jew in America in 2019, means a kind of act of resistance, a defiance, against white nationalism, and against a culture that wants us to fade into the background. And so here we are. Here we are. And there were other Jews this year who stood up and said, you know what, actually, what it means to be a Jew is to take that very history and reality of trauma and pain and make sure that if we can prevent anyone else from feeling it, we get in that fight. And so this year there were thousands upon thousands of Jews who went out in the streets to protest detention camps, saying never again, because what it means to be Jewish is to know that if anyone is being dehumanized, that dehumanizes all of us. And we stand here tonight holding all of that, what it means to be Jewish, whether or not we protested, whether or not we ever felt ourselves to be unsafe. As you walked through the doors tonight, it was something we all had to think about. And so here we are. Here we are. Now, many of us work all year to try to be better people. We work in therapy, we've got coaches, we go to the gym, and our work lives and our home lives, we're in a process of self-reflection. And I would hope that that's something all of us are doing all year. The high holidays are kind of about coming together. I feel like it's the group huddle of the Jewish people, in which we remind ourselves that we're all playing the same game. We're all in this together. We've got each other's backs in this full contact sport we call life. None of us is doing it alone. I may live to regret a sports metaphor, being somebody who knows very, very little about sports ball. But, okay, here's one thing I do know. Sports require practice. And there are the pros, the people who practice hours upon hours a day. There are the people that enjoy their local social club, and so maybe they'll practice a couple hours a week for that sport. And then there are people like me, maybe, who, if you ask me to explain a first down, I just don't. We walk in with the anticipation and the excitement of the new year percolating, and at the same time, many of us walk into this place feeling like we're not pro-Jews. Like the sport we're about to play together with the Hebrew and the liturgy and the songs that we kind of remember from last year maybe feel foreign. We feel out of practice. And so I want to offer some of the ways that we can address that, because my hope would be that we all feel really connected, uplifted, and with the ability to participate. One thing anyone in this room should know, especially my family, because probably those are my children. But if they're your children, or children you know, there's a space up on the second floor we're calling a playground. And it's out in the lobby on the second floor, and just bring kids out there. Is it possible to hear what's happening in the service? There's a screen so you can be connected to what's happening in the service with your child, not in the service, right out there. So, FYI, word to the wise. Tomorrow, actually, up on that same floor, there's an installation about our social justice work. There'll be coffee and tea throughout the day, and actually, as the day wears on, after about 11:30 or so, there'll be some snacks. FYI, public service announcement. Other things to hopefully set you at ease before we go into this prayer experience together. So, the high holidays are not actually what happened in this room. The high holidays are 10 days at least, but really, they are the experience of what happens to you throughout these 10 days, between now and Yom Kippur, and actually after. The high holidays are all about what you do with this experience, not the experience itself. That said, we've put a lot of thought and time into the experience itself, and so I want to offer some pro tips for the journey here in this space for the Yamim Noraim. And I guess let's make these like agreements, and if you agree, I'll ask you, do you agree? If you're on board, like thumbs up, and you can say yes. So, okay, here's, ooh, haha, sorry. I'm going to apologize to this wonderful person who's managing this microphone right now, because I'm going to keep doing this. Is it better if it just hangs like that, and then that way you don't have to change it? No. Okay. Okay, all right. Here's number one. Here's rule number one. Inclusion and kindness. Yes. Okay, great. Should I not say any more? There was somebody who walked up for her very first time at Mishkan, came on a Friday night to the welcome table, and said in an undertone, "It's my first time here. What should I know about this place?" to the person who was at the welcome table. And he said to her, "What you should know is that no matter where you come from, or who you are, or how much you know, you are loved." Isn't that nice? So, yeah. Let's give some snaps for, he would be embarrassed if I said who it was. So I'll just say, that should be your answer when somebody asks you, what's this Mishkan place about? You should say, love. And then what we're going to try and do here is practice that for literally everyone. The person who crawls across your lap to get to their seat, the person who's texting behind you, the person who opens the throat lozenge right as we're doing some, like Avinu Malkeinu. The person who maybe is taking a little longer than you would like to go through the line outside. Just anything worth doing is worth practicing. We all want to be people who walk through the world with more love. These Jews right here are a great group of people to practice on. So, are you with me? Will you practice love and inclusion? Yes. Great. 2, civic responsibility. These rules were sort of inspired by the 10 principles of Burning Man. I'm only going to do 3, though. Civic responsibility. Think of the number of things that had to go right in order for you to be here. And in this space, look around. Look at all of the little touches that are not here if you just come to a show at the Vic. The posters, the screens, these beautiful people, the people who walked in with you, the ushers, the everything, every little small detail that you notice. Somebody did. So be a person who, while here, takes on a sense of civic responsibility for others. If you go into a bathroom and there's not a toilet paper roll, even if it's not your fault, that's okay. You could be the one to change it. It could be you. If somebody spills something and it wasn't you, but you notice it's on the floor, somebody could slip. Why don't you be the hero who helps make this space the space that we can all be in and be in safely and take care of one another? And if you can bring that sense of can-do spirit and also curiosity, how can I help? Even if you're not a volunteer on a shift, to this space, I think we will really enjoy our time together so much more. Can you commit to some civic responsibility? Yes. Okay, great. Love that. I love that got applause. It says so much about you. Thank you. All right, so here's the last one, is self-reliance and participation. So many people's experience of the high holidays is, come, all rise, we can be seated. All rise, we can be seated. The ark is opened. All rise, we can be seated. And we would like to think that things are a little bit different here. We have a few tools at our disposal to create a much more participatory environment, so you never have to feel the feeling of, I don't know what's going on, I guess I'll check out and wait till the next song I do know, which is a feeling I know well. I participated in many services where that was my basic orientation. During anything that was quiet, I counted the lights on the ceiling, and then I sang for Oseh Shalom. And so I want to say we have these awesome slides here that we've been developing over the past year, and what they're gonna show you, in addition to beautiful photography, thank you, Harry Gottlieb, is a page number, for example. Oh, look at that! And that way, if I don't say we're on page 9, you'll be able to just look up and see. For the most part, all of the various page numbers we'll be flipping through are gonna be up there, and so even if we're davening in Hebrew, And even if we're going through pages and pages, we won't ever do so many pages in a row without talking. But if and when we do, just notice up there as the little arrow also moves down the page as a guide for where we are. The machzor is also a tool. And so, if you would, you can open yours to the page we're going to be on in a moment. Check it out. Great. You can just put your finger on page 9 and just notice there's Hebrew running down the binding on the left side. And for people who might be comfortable with traditional liturgy, it is the traditional liturgy, except for when there's a Reform or a Reconstructionist edition, which the author of this machzor included, which makes it a little bit unwieldy in places. But we're going to do our best to take you through it. There's complete transliteration running down the whole left side. No matter where we are, whether it's a song we're singing out loud or something we're doing quietly, feel free to use the transliteration so that you can participate more fully. And then finally on the right side is translation and interpretation. The way that the slides are going to work, though, is that for the most part, these are not going to be just duplicating what's here in the book. These are going to be a sort of spiritual journey to take you deeper into the intention of what we think these prayers were trying to get at. And so if your way in to Jewish prayer is through the book, so use it. That's what it's here for. But if your way in is like you're here with your people tonight, and you're hoping something will happen. You're hoping you might have a deep thought. Something might spur you to an internal journey. So that's what the slides are also for, in addition to, words so that everybody can be part of this. Up on the second floor, you'll also see some delights to check in with that I'll just let you explore on your own. I guess what I would say is listen to your own body and judgment. You don't have to wait for somebody up here to say, rise, if you need to get up. Get up. Go for a walk. These services are long. The only people who are going to be sitting in one place the whole time are us. And even us, we're going to be getting up and moving around. We expect that you will too. And so I'm going to try to do my best to let you know what's coming. I think that is it in the way of public service announcements. Oh, if you're having a hard time hearing, and it's not my fault because of this, we have devices up at the fix-in table that use like an FM receiver that can help you connect with this experience. Now, I just completely broke the first rule of Priya Parker's book on how we gather, which is giving logistical information up at the top of an experience. I would like to invite us to stand. I want to ask you, our unspoken rule around the office is the idea that we are all bringing our whole self and being part of something larger than ourselves. Are you up for bringing your whole self here to this holiday season? Yes. Are you up for bringing your whole self to this holiday season? All right. Join me as we begin together. Let's all join on one note. You can find yourself in this. Adonai
Baruch Adonai Mevorach Leolam Vaed. Take a seat. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. אשר בירורו מעריב ערבים בחוכמה פותח שערים ובתבונה משנה עתים מחליף את הזמנים מסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם רק כרצונו ומעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. היי 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 ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב עולם בית ישראל בחפת תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת נשמח בדברי תורתך ומצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו ובהם נגע יומם ולילה והבטחה אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים היי 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 say the Shema, you can cover or close your eyes, and we'll take a full breath for each word of the Shema. Shema Yisrael ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם דעות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך והיה אם שמות תשמעו אל מצוותיי אשר אנוכי מצווה אתכם היום. Continuing down 12 and 13 at your own pace. נתתי מטר ארצכם איתו, יורה אל מקוש וספת דגנך, תדרשך יצריך. Don't keep the waters up in heaven so that the rain will not fall. למען ירבו ימיכם לפניכם האדמה אשר נשבענו לאבותיהם לתת כמי השמיים על הארץ, יאמרנו שלמור. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Continuing on 14, we'll find ourselves at the bottom of 14 in a moment. אמת באמונה כל זאת וקיים. עלינו. אנחנו ישראל עמו עבדינו מיד מלכים. We have been through so much this year, so much. Love is what has kept us, has helped us come through until this point. We, like the Israelites who stood on the shores of the sea, sing for the miracle of being here in this moment right now. Take a moment and actually think of something maybe even a little harrowing that this past year we can now leave in the rearview mirror as you are here now. And we sing. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא
One of the most small and tender moments that I have from this past year happened by a pond in the springtime. I had gone back to visit the place where my husband and I had gotten married the year before. It was this beautiful retreat space in the woods, and I was sitting by the pond on this bench, and this flock of ducks just came up, and the parent duck was nestling just on the edge of the pond. And then the little baby duck, Tova is here. Tova knows exactly. She was sitting next to me when this was happening. The little baby duck just curled up next to the big duck and nestled itself under the wing. And it took me back immediately to another tender moment that I shared with my dad when he was lying in bed sick, and I laid beside him and I curled up next to him and I just put his arm around me and just tried to hold on to this feeling that I was safe and that he could protect me. In Hashkivenu, in the prayer that we're about to sing together, there's this image of being sheltered and covered up that repeats a few times. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Uvitzel kenafecha tastirenu. Hide us under the shadow of your wing. And it imagines God like a mother bird or a father bird just extending their wing to cover over us all. I think each of us begins these high holidays in some way covered up and concealed, a little bit hidden from each other and a little bit hidden from ourselves. And we're not yet ready to fully bare our tender souls, and that's okay. We come into this space, we're each carrying burdens and baggage from this past year and our worries about the future. And I wonder if in some way this place, this space, can be a kind of temporary refuge for us, a space in time. Even if the world outside doesn't feel at all certain or safe, just to be able to arrive here and feel protected and to feel loved. And so maybe there is a tender moment that happened to you this past year. Maybe you can think of a moment that was just as simple as receiving a hug or a kiss on the forehead, where just in that instant you felt safe. Just invite you to remember tenderness. And can you feel that tenderness right now, just as we sing together?
shlomecha v'taknenu be'etza tova milfanecha v'hoshienu ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha v'taknenu be'etza tova milfanecha v'hoshienu
Again.
ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha v'taknenu be'etza tova milfanecha
If there's anyone that you're praying for tonight, anyone that you're holding in your heart, I just want to invite you to bring their names into the room, into this space together now. And just say them aloud.
V'tagneinu be'etza tova milfanecha ve'hoshienu ufros aleinu sukkah shlomecha v'tagneinu be'etza tova milfanecha ve'hoshienu.
ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ברוך אתה אדוני הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ועל ירושלים. If you look up in the sky tonight, assuming it's clear enough to see the moon, you will see the thinnest little tiny sliver of a moon. And that is how the Jewish people have been blessing the new month and the new year for as long as there has been a Jewish people, thousands of years. We begin our sacred days and moments when it's most dark out. We begin our holidays at night, and we begin the new year when the moon is at its tiniest before it grows and then shrinks again, and then a new month begins. And this year we are celebrating 5,780. Yeah. We're going back into the 80s, people. Who's excited about that? Yeah, wow. I wasn't expecting that. Great use of the disco ball. You know, there is an actual creation museum, maybe you have heard of it, in Kentucky, where they teach that the literal creation story as it appears in our shared testament, the Torah, that it is literally true, and that the world is literally about as old, give or take 1,000 years, as we are celebrating tonight. And I want you to know that the Jewish tradition thinks that's BS. Rashi, even earlier than medieval, like 11th century French commentary writer on the Torah and Talmud, says basically, if you look at those verses of creation, you know, the first few, in the beginning, right? He says, if you read this expecting that it's science, you are a fool. That's what he says if you open the book. And so then it's sort of like, okay, well, what exactly are we celebrating, 5,780? And I like to think of it as, it is the amount of time that we have been counting time as a people. That may or may not be exactly accurate, but that is to say, we actually do hold time as sacred as a people. Everything that we do is about marking the sacredness, the amazingness, the miraculousness of the moment, and the day, and the week, and the month, and the year. And so we celebrate, just like we celebrate a birthday, and every year on our birthday we think to ourselves, gosh, what are my resolutions? How might I want to be better? And people celebrate us, and we actually let people celebrate us maybe on our birthday. So this is the world letting us celebrate her, it, them, the universe. So as we stand now, we read these same words that our people have been saying for a very long time. The invitation to declare the new year, declare the new moon on Rosh Hashanah tonight. So we sing. Middle of 17, or it's up there. Tiku v'chodesh shofar b'kesel yom chagenu ki chag sound the shofar at the new moon. Proclaim this festival when the moon is concealed, for this is what our people do. We've been doing it a real long time. Chatzi Kaddish, 18. Yitgadal v'yitkadash merabah.
To go into the Amidah, which literally means to stand. To stand. I explained earlier, this book will be a great tool for those of you who are familiar with it or who want to explore it. And for those of you who want to take this time, which is personal, quiet, reflective time, to go on more of an inner journey. So what the slides are doing is they, in a way, have encapsulated or given an internal reflection for what these different prayers in the Amidah are based on. So the Amidah doesn't change. Many parts of it don't change, whether it's a weekday or a holiday. And so the things that appear in the Amidah, the different specific blessings, we start with our ancestors. We move to a sense of our persistence, our strength, holiness, specifically our holiness on this day. Avodah, our commitment to service, modim, gratitude, and our commitment to peace. And so what'll be up here will be meditations that sort of go through, give you a minute or so to really think. And we'll come back together at the end and we'll sing. The rabbis of the Talmud say that if you don't add your own words to these words, then you haven't really prayed. And so I want to challenge us, and I'll say this again tomorrow, because there'll be 2 more of these quiet opportunities tomorrow that are really more of a DIY, choose your own adventure prayer experience. You are the prayer. You are the prayer. I want to say that again. You are the prayer. The prayer isn't in the book and it's not up on the screen. It's what happens in here. And so we have modeled for us tomorrow a person who prays her own words. She just goes to her own place in the sanctuary, kind of finds her own little spot where she can move her mouth, where she can hear herself, and nobody else needs to know what she's saying, but she knows what she's saying and she knows what she's praying for. And I fear that we don't give ourselves the same license that Hannah was brave enough to give herself in a room full of people. And so I want to invite you and challenge you even. There's a little bit of space, the aisles and up in the balcony, to actually take these moments of personal time to maybe do the reflecting that you wish you did before you walked in about your year. And we'll come back together in a few minutes. In the meantime, we open our hearts and our mouths.
Adonai,
Adonai,
Sifatai,
Sifatai,
Tiftach,
Tiftach,
Ufi Agid, Ufi Agid,
Fiagid,
Tehillah,
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 Techa, Tehillah, Techa, Tehillah, Techa. Sifatai, Tiftach, Ufi Agid, Tehillah, Tehillah, Techa, Tehillah, Techa, Tehillah, Techa. Adonai, Sifatai, Tiftach, Ufi Agid, Tehillah, Tehillah, Techa.
we can take a seat. We can take a seat. So what I didn't do was introduce your guides on this journey to you at the beginning of the night. So let me do that now. First of all, thank you. Thank you, davening team. So yeah. How about around now, and then that way for every person here, you can just love them with like jazz hands. So Stephen Chapman and Henry Bernstein and Judah Lev Heidemann, who's our mascot, and Sam Schiller and Celia Strauss and Kalman Strauss and Aaliyah Schwartz and Rachel Jimenez and Liz Jones and Lauren Abrams and Julie Fishback and Abby Citron and Rachel Goldberg and Rabbi Jeff Stamba and Rabbi Lauren Henderson. So these folks have been preparing our hearts to be able to bring you, yeah. All right, now how about one more time? Yeah. For some people, for 6 years, almost as long as Mishkan has been around, they've been up in, whether it's been a circle or a square or a horseshoe or like what we've got going on now. We're always and in every way trying to create an experience that you feel like you're connected to and part of. If you come on a regular Shabbat, you know we kind of daven in the round. And we're trying to simulate that as much as possible, which is why it is so awesome that you all are here. Guess where you could be tomorrow? If there are seats left for you, they're really hot. So I want to turn it over to Rabbi Jeff, who is our Jewish Emergent Network Fellow. We are really fortunate. We're part of 7 communities around the country. The others are in New York, DC, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Seattle. And we've been part of a project for the past 3 years that has brought a fellow into each one of our midst, somebody who just graduated from rabbinical school and is getting their feet wet as a rabbi in one of our communities, with the idea that, you know, whether you graduated from a reform or a conservative or a reconstructionist or an independent school, I think that pretty much represents all of the different schools that people have come to be placed in these communities. All of these communities are actually post-denominational and are beginning to sort of be the change that we wish to see in the world, so to speak, and to try to help create the next generation of rabbis to bring some of this out into the world. And so we've been super lucky because our first fellow is Rabbi Lauren, and she stuck around. And so, yeah, you can clap if you want. Okay, go ahead, clap. Yay, Rabbi Lauren! Yay! And we're entering our 2nd year with Rabbi Jeff, who has just brought light and life and song. He's like on the guitar with the Mensch kids every single week. He has built beautiful relationships with Moishe House and is like the rabbi in residence par excellence of tribal gatherings, which is an adult Jewish summer camp that meets all over the country. And we're very lucky to be able to learn from you tonight. So, yeah. All right. I know, it's weird, but now that we've started clapping, go for it.
Not for everyone.
But how about afterwards, you can just say Yasher Koach.
There.
Yasher Koach. All right. Great. Is this here? I can, sure.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova. Ooh.
So I took my first trip to Israel in 2002 for 2 months. And at the end of the trip, we had a survey that was about how our sense of Jewish identity had developed over the course of this trip. And the last question on the survey was, how important is it for you to marry someone Jewish? Very important, somewhat important, not important, or I don't know. Answering this question was a watershed moment for my Jewish identity. The question assumes that it's important to marry someone Jewish, which went against a rule that I had grown up with based on the values my parents taught me. It doesn't matter where you come from, i.e. religion or otherwise. What matters is who you are when looking for a partner. What my personal life should look like felt like it was on trial because it was, and also I was changing. Cautiously and inspired from a meaningful trip, I filled in the box, very important. Then it felt weird. I erased it and refilled in with somewhat important. I was wrestling with something that I like to call authenticity anxiety. Sounds familiar, maybe. When the last right choice for us is different than it used to be because our authentic selves are always changing. That's growth. That's life. And for some of us, maybe most of us, authenticity anxiety follows us our entire life. And in that anxious moment, I was discovering a new way of creating a little more distance between me and my folks, outgrowing their house, which was an interfaith home. My mom is Jewish, and my dad a Christian, Taoist, Buddhist black belt. And while this survey moment didn't change how I dated anyone for over a decade, in fact, until rabbinical school, I made it a point to date outside the Jewish community, and only then I felt like I needed to explore dating within the tribe. And I found myself on Match.com, JDate, OkCupid, and Hinge, all with algorithms that knew that I was looking for a Jewish woman. And in my final year of school, I met Stephanie. And while staffing a honeymoon Israel trip about 4 weeks ago, I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. Thank you. The people who designed that survey would be thrilled. Because they, like much of the Jewish community at large, commonly measure the success of Jewish education and Jewish life experience and community health by the number of Jews who marry other Jews. But what's that really measuring if authenticity is always evolving? Today, approximately 72% of Jewish identifying couples are interfaith. Is their Judaism not authentic? Or does the Jewish community need to re-examine how to connect the dots between two things that naturally depart from one another? An ancient story of how things should look, and people making modern, authentic choices. Well, I made my authentic choice, and I'm also thrilled to be engaged to Stephanie. She inspires me. She pushes me to be a better me. We're in love, and quite often I find myself surprised at all the cool Jewish stuff she knows, and I love it. But our love is not Jewish. Our love is love. Her family background and half of mine is Eastern European Jewish, and the other important half of mine is Pennsylvania Dutch. So while on one hand this new year is starting with something beautiful to celebrate, I can't help but fear that I'm departing further and further from something sacred. Namely, for me, an ability to honor my father and his heritage, not because of who I found to love, but because where will the rich diversity of his Christian, Taoist, Buddhist, black belt self exist in our world moving forward? And more pointedly given the fact that 4 years ago this year, he passed away from early onset Alzheimer's. This is my moment of sacred departure at the start of this year. Like Lech Lecha, when Abraham had the ultimate sacred departure from his house. And understandably honoring my dad is particularly on my mind as this new chapter starts. But in truth, we all experience this departure in different ways. When the distance grows further from a loved one, or we can see in the coming years an inevitable generational shift, how will we hold on? And the departure from our old identities as we discover and reinvent our new authentic self, how do we preserve and reconcile with our previous selves? Or the departure from a family or tradition, when ways of doing things may not have lost their importance, but certainly their relevance, and seemingly don't fit anymore in how we've chosen to live. These are departures from sacred things because they make up the DNA of who we are. Inviting the question, how can we hold on to where we're from while naturally and intentionally breaking away from it at the same time? How can we hold on to where we've come from while naturally and intentionally breaking away from it at the same time? Consider the participants on this Honeymoon Israel trip I went on. Honeymoon Israel is a Jewish organization that provides trips to Israel for diverse couples with at least one Jewish partner. The couples on this trip are choosing to seek out a new horizon for themselves that naturally and regularly stretches out the distance of their departure from their origin stories. Some couples are supported by their families in this endeavor, while others experience harsh judgment, accusations of not being suitable or good enough for their partner, or being skipped over entirely in the succession of a family honor on account of their partnered status. A pain that even after finding a way to empathize with or rationalize with is still hard to hold. And yet they do. And whether or not they're aware, their ability to hold on to where they've been while departing from it at the same time is made possible by their willingness to fully embrace one another and be along for the ride, and have a sense of responsibility to one another to turn and face their past, learn where they're from, examine it, and reconcile with it to better understand who they are. And the truth is that very few of these couples were on this trip learning about or being challenged by different parts of their heritage to honor their parents. They were showing up for each other, to honor where the other had come from in order to understand the wholeness of their relationship, creating their own family origin story. And we can do this for ourselves too, no partner necessary, which is, I know, neither simple nor easy. Sometimes turning back to face our own family histories and re-examine our parental relationships can be triggering. It takes a special love, a special embrace of ourselves to spark conviction and bravery to revisit scars, open old wounds, or dormant memories. Figuring out how and where to start will be different for everyone. And this is, of course, one of the major themes of this high holiday season. These rituals, this liturgy, these stories were fashioned with love for us to be responsible to ourselves, to know ourselves more wholly, to do cheshbon hanefesh, a complete accounting of our souls. This is what we're supposed to be keenly aware of in these next 10 days, and one of the places we cannot avoid looking, if we're to do this completely, is to examine our own human createdness. The commandment to honor our parents tells us not to let the distance grow too far away from the story of those who literally got us here. And it's not about needing to have some kind of imbalanced gratitude or owing to our parents because we exist. It's about how our identities will naturally and intentionally evolve to outgrow their house. And our responsibility to ourselves to keep them written into our stories as we break away. There's a particular parent origin story in the Torah that can help bring this together, of course. The scene is at the temple, God's house. Every year, our ancestors were commanded to go there and pay a tax of first fruits, the most precious from their fields and worth real money. And upon arrival, they're to go to the priests and say the following, a script from the book of Deuteronomy. My father was a wandering Aramean. He went down to Egypt with small numbers, lived there, and became a great and populous nation. Let's break it down. My father was a wandering Aramean. Well, I don't know about you. Mine was from Pennsylvania. But the truth is that even the Jewish tradition doesn't have consensus about what this is referring to. It could be Abraham. It could be Jacob. It could be mine from Pennsylvania, which I think is the larger point. This is our story. This is your story. He went down to Egypt. This should be a red flag. The text is from Deuteronomy. We've already read about what happens in Egypt. Good things don't happen in Egypt. And in the biblical canon, down to Egypt is a euphemism for bad idea. But even so, it's part of our story, and we have to tell it. We have to know it. We have to reconcile with it. Egypt is where my father chooses to go, live, and become a great and populous nation, to live and transform into something greater. It's a story that's end is not determined by its beginning. What story is. And by telling the story and learning how to tell it better, we can examine the way we look backwards for the way we look forward. And if we don't, on some level, we will stay broken and incomplete. But my favorite part of this text is the context. The previous two verses that describe how this story accompanies a tax. It's as if when we as Americans were to submit our tax forms in April, that we also be asked to recall out loud our parent origin story. Here are some examples. Here are my taxes. My mother was from Skokie. She had me and 3 sisters. We lived in the city and she worked at a law firm. Life is good. This happened and that's why I'm giving you my taxes, these precious first fruits. Or maybe, here are my taxes. My father was absent for most of my life, and I hate him for it. He went down to Florida, and now he owns a drugstore. Here are my fruits. Or perhaps, my father was a profile picture at a fertility clinic. We never met, and I don't know much about him, other than what was on the form. Here I am. What I love about this Torah is that it teaches us that in order to enter sacred space, we need to connect the dots between two things that naturally depart from one another. Dot 1 are the fruits, a representation of ourselves, our life choices. We, as farmers, love the land, work the land, produce this fruit, and choose which ones of the first harvest would best be representative of ourselves when we go knock on the door to God's house. And the second dot is our story, the one we're naturally departing from every year. A vocal retelling of where we came from, how we got here, and why we're standing here at God's house, starting with our parents. And I wonder, how will we tell this story again a year from now? If we kept in touch with these characters, how might the narrative develop? And what might we uncover about ourselves? What might we care to try and change? My mother was from Skokie. She got sick and had to retire. Now my 3 sisters all live in Skokie to help support her. I live far away, but get back when I can and try and call every day. This and that happened this year, and that's why I'm here, giving you these first fruits. Or, my absent father and I reconnected. I still hate him, but the next trip to Florida should be better. I know where the boundaries need to be. Or, I still haven't met my father, and I don't expect to. But I know I was born from love like my mothers tell me. We talk about it. Here I am. Here's my tax return. My father's from Pennsylvania, and he had a deep love for astronomy. About a year after he died, I was in the attic rummaging through some old boxes, and I found a black journal of his. It had some poetry, some notes, and a draft of a letter to me that he didn't give me and more likely never finished. It reads, "Dear Jeff, one of my favorite quotes I give to you. It says, 'A ship is safe in the harbor, but that's not what ships are for,' by John D. Shedd." The letter goes on, but that's all I needed. A piece of Dad's Torah that I didn't know before. A treasure I never intended to find or even could have hoped to discover rummaging around old boxes in the attic. And it will change me forever, because now I can connect the dot of my story and Dad's favorite quote to the dots of the fruits of my choices. Now we're equipped, Stephanie and I, with a compass to figure out how to honor him in years to come. We need to open ourselves up to discovering things about ourselves we couldn't know we didn't know. examining past the surface, past our ego or prior definitions and assumptions we ever had about what makes something Jewish or a family member challenging or not worth another look. Revisiting these relationships and retelling these stories gives us the chance to shape ourselves, those we love, and our community. That's what it takes to hold on to two things that naturally depart from one another. That's what these high holidays are for. May this be a new year of starting new dialogues, renewing old ones, and building relationships that may diverge from where we came from or from where you are, but bring us all closer to wholeness. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova. Shakoah.
I've been selling my name for the sake of who knows. I'm trying to explain how it's all gonna go. I don't take my life for granted. I've been waking up tight day after day. Hope it's taking its time to go my way, but I don't take my life for granted. I'm gonna hold on tight to what I've been handed.
Let's stand. We're moving in the direction of closing together. Try not to complain
About the things I've lost. 'Cause when you have something great, that just means there's a greater loss. So when you look at yourself, tell me, who do you see? Is it the person you've been or the person that you're gonna be? Don't take your life for granted. Don't take your life for granted. Why don't you hold on tight to what you've been handed? Take my life for granted, and don't take your life for granted. Don't take your life for granted. Why don't we hold on tight to what we've been handed? 'Cause we just don't know how long you will have it.
75.
יתגדל ויתקדש ורבה אמן בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי וחייכון יום נכון וחיית כל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן יהי שמירה במבורך מעולם ולעולמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קדושה לעילא לעילא מכל ברכתה ושירתה תשבחתה ונחמתה תמירם ועלמא ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בחר בנו מכל עם ורוממנו בכל לשון וקידשנו במצוותיו ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה. Thank you for giving us this day in love at יום הזיכרון הזה. מקרא קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים יום תרועה blowing of the shofar day כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים כי אליך קראת אותנו קידשת לעבודתך ודברך אמת וקיים לעד. Blessed are you who gives us this holy day of blasting the shofar and remembering who we are.
Amen.
Amen. I wish I could tell you that we had 600 little sippy cups of wine on the way out for you, but we don't, so you'll have to clink your glasses tonight over grape juice or your other favorite thing and toast to the new year. 77. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגוי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם. 78. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נטע שמיים ויוסד הארץ ומושב יקרה בשמיים שכינתו זו בגובהי מרומים הוא אלוהינו אינו עוד אבן מלכנו וזולתו. We're at the bottom of 78. We can take a seat. We have this trope throughout the liturgy that on Rosh Hashanah it is written and on Yom Kippur it is sealed. And that section of text tomorrow begins with who will live and who will die. And if you open up many a machzor just like this, there'll be a sort of explanation on the side that says, well, you know, our theology doesn't really mean who will live and who will die is determined in the next 10 days. We mean who will have a full life and who will be dead inside. Different metaphorical ways of interpreting something that the truth is we know is very true. And there are people who might have been sitting next to us last year that are not here tonight. We are missing partners. We are missing parents. We are missing children and siblings and friends and relatives. We know that among the tragedies nationally, there have been more names than we could read out loud tonight. And so I want to invite us tonight, as we do at every service, even with as many people as we have in this room, that if there's someone who you are remembering, someone whose yahrzeit it is, or someone who has died in the last week or month or year, or someone you just want to stand and remember tonight. So I'll ask you to stand, and we'll go around, and I'll look, and you can say their name out loud and bring their memory here into this space with us. We add our names to the names of those who were killed in Pittsburgh, davening on Shabbos at the Tree of Life Synagogue. Joyce Feinberg, David Rosenthal, Max Stein, Melvin Wax, Irvin Younger, Cecil Rosenthal, Richard Gottfried, Rose Mallinger, Bernice Simon, Sylvan Simon, and Jerry Rabinowitz, and also Lori Gilbert Kay, who was killed davening in Chabad in Poway, California, and all of our memories and names. In the back. In the back. Maybe starting over there in the back.
Anybody who hasn't yet said someone? Oh my goodness. Yehi zichronam livracha. May their memories be blessings. The words of Kaddish are on 80. And anyone who wants to stand for Kaddish. It's on 80. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah. Be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael b'agala uv'izman kariv v'yamru.
Amen.
Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei d'kudsha. Le'ela le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran v'alma v'imru.
Amen.
Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Osei shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru. Amen. Yehi zichronam livracha. Their memories are blessings. So we're about done tonight. Few words on your way out. Bring everything that you were given on your way in with you on your way out and give it to somebody who will manifest themselves to take it from you. Whether it is your badge, please don't take it with you. Let us take it back and re-alphabetize them. I have been assured this is necessary, so please do not keep your badge with you thinking I'll just scoot past the line and just come right in with it in the morning. Please, please help all of the people who thought through this whole process by just doing what they're asking so nicely for everybody to do, which is bring your book back, bring your kippah if you borrowed a kippah, and give your badge to somebody at the front on your way out. In the morning, we are beginning here at 9:15. Doors will open around 9, and we'll go until, 2. Hence the snacks, hence the coffee and tea, and the installations around so that you can stretch yourself and be delighted by things in this space and also outside this space. And what I would say is if you've got lunch plans tomorrow, tell people you're coming later. You'll thank me when you stay until 2, I promise, because some of the best stuff happens toward the end. And it's this sad thing when there's an exodus right after the shofar. I'm telling you now, you'll wish you stayed. So, word to the wise. Now it's been said. I think that's all by way of announcements. So, we're going to stand, we're going to sing ourselves out with the traditional Yigdal tune, only sung at the high holidays, and then we'll rock out up here for a little bit. The words are on the screens. It's a little bit different than in the book. It's a little bit shorter. Yigdal